Welcome to Vidyaskatra YouTube channel, a dedicated place for developers, learners, and professionals to upgrade their knowledge with real-world concepts and practical explanations. Hey developers, welcome back to the channel. In today's session, we are going to unlock one of the most important concepts in clean coding and professional software development, the single responsibility principle. If you have ever faced messy code, bugs after every update, confusion while maintaining projects, or fear of touching old code, then this video is absolutely for you. I will explain SRP in super simple language with real examples, real coding scenarios, powerful explanations, and complete clarity. Watch this video till the end, because once you understand SRP properly, your coding style will never be the same again. Let's begin. So now, let's understand what exactly the single responsibility principle is. The single responsibility principle, also called SRP, simply means that a class, module, function, or component should have only one reason to change. In other words, anything we create in software should focus on only one responsibility, just one job, and nothing more. Think of it like this. If a class is taking care of multiple unrelated tasks, handling too many things at once, and trying to behave like a superhero class, then it is definitely breaking the single responsibility principle. So remember this in the simplest way. A class should do only one job, a class should focus on one responsibility, and a class should never mix multiple unrelated tasks inside it. If it does, then sooner or later, the code becomes messy, confusing, and very difficult to maintain. That is why SRP is so important. It keeps your code clean, clear, and professional. Now let's understand the single responsibility principle in very simple and practical language. Imagine a person working in a company. But instead of having one clear role, this single employee is doing everything. He is working as a software developer, a tester, an HR manager, an accountant, and also a marketing executive. What do you think will happen? Naturally, this person will get confused. Their work will become completely messy. If the HR policy changes, their work changes. If tax rules change, their work changes. If marketing strategy changes, again they have to change the way they work. This makes their role unstable, stressful, and extremely difficult to manage. The same thing happens in programming. When one class handles too many responsibilities at once, that class becomes tightly coupled, difficult to maintain, difficult to modify, risky to change, and highly prone to bugs. So the single responsibility principle gives us a very powerful and clear message. One class equals one purpose, one module equals one responsibility, one function equals one clear task. When every part of the software has only one responsibility, the system becomes cleaner, easier to understand, easier to maintain, and far more professional. So now the question is, why is the single responsibility principle so important? Why do developers, architects, and big companies constantly talk about SRP? Let's understand the real power behind it. Makes code easy to understand. When a class has only one responsibility, it becomes extremely easy to read and understand. Any developer can open that file and immediately know what it does. Instead of scrolling through hundreds of lines of confusing and mixed up logic, they can instantly identify the exact purpose of that class. Simple responsibility means simple understanding, and simple understanding means better development. Makes code easy to maintain. Software is never permanent. New features come, business rules change, performance needs improvement, and customers demand updates. If your class is handling only one job, making changes becomes very safe, easy, and fast. You don't have to worry about breaking other functionalities because you are modifying only the part related to that specific responsibility. Reduces bugs and errors. When multiple responsibilities are tightly packed inside one class, changing one part can accidentally break another. That's where most hidden bugs come from. But when we follow SRP, responsibilities are well separated. So if something goes wrong, we immediately know where to look, and fixing issues becomes much simpler and safer. Encourages reusability. When each class is focused on a single responsibility, those classes become highly reusable. Other modules, other teams, or even completely different applications can use them easily without modification. Clean separation naturally leads to reusable and professional code, improves testability. Unit testing becomes incredibly simple with SRP. Since each class is responsible for only one thing, we can test that one responsibility independently. Tests become clearer, faster, and far more reliable. This is one of the biggest reasons why SRP is loved in real-world enterprise projects. Why is the single responsibility principle so important? Why do developers, architects, and big companies constantly talk about SRP? Let's understand the real power behind it. Makes code easy to understand. When a class has only one responsibility, it becomes extremely easy to read and understand. Any developer can open that file and immediately know what it does. Instead of scrolling through hundreds of lines of confusing and mixed up logic, they can instantly identify the exact purpose of that class. Simple responsibility means simple understanding, and simple understanding means better development. Makes code easy to maintain. Software is never permanent. New features come, business rules change, performance needs improvement, and customers demand updates. If your class is handling only one job, making changes becomes very safe, easy, and fast. You don't have to worry about breaking other functionalities because you are modifying only the part related to that specific responsibility, reduces bugs and errors. When multiple responsibilities are tightly packed inside one class, changing one part can accidentally break another. That's where most hidden bugs come from. But when we follow SRP, responsibilities are well separated. So if something goes wrong, we immediately know where to look, and fixing issues becomes much simpler and safer. Encourages reusability. When each class is focused on a single responsibility, those classes become highly reusable. Other modules, other teams, or even completely different applications can use them easily without modification. Clean separation naturally leads to reusable and professional code, improves testability. Unit testing becomes incredibly simple with SRP. Since each class is responsible for only one thing, we can test that one responsibility independently. Tests become clearer, faster, and far more reliable. This is one of the biggest reasons why SRP is loved in real-world enterprise projects. So overall, the single responsibility principle makes your code clear, maintainable, stable, reusable, and highly professional. That's why SRP is not just a theory. It is a real-life foundation of clean and long-lasting software. Now the next important question is, where should we actually apply the single responsibility principle? Is it only for classes? Or is it something much bigger? Well, SRP is not limited to just classes. We should apply it to almost every level of software development. We apply SRP to classes, methods, services, microservices, API layers, UI components, modules, folders, and even entire projects. Wherever there is functionality, simply ask yourself two simple questions. Is this doing only one job? Or is it handling multiple responsibilities? If you realize that something is doing too many things at once, then it's time to split it. Give every part of your system one clear purpose and one clear responsibility. When you do that, your software becomes cleaner, more modular, easier to understand, and far more professional. So one class is now directly connected to multiple areas of the system, and that is extremely dangerous, because it makes the class hard to maintain, hard to extend, hard to test, risky to modify, and definitely not reusable. This is exactly why the single responsibility principle says, do not dump everything into one class. Give every responsibility its own dedicated place. Now let's see how we can fix this problem using the single responsibility principle and convert our bad design into a clean, professional, and maintainable design. Instead of keeping everything inside one class, we simply separate the responsibilities into different classes. Each class will now focus on only one job, one responsibility, and one clear purpose. Create a validation class. First, we create a dedicated class only for user validation. Public class user validator. Public void validate, user. If string is null or empty, user. Email. Throw new exception, email is required. This class has just one responsibility, to validate the user. Create a repository class for database. Next, we create another class only for database saving. Public class user repository. Public void save, user. Console. Write line, user saved. This class is responsible only for storing the user. Create an email service class. Now we separate the email sending logic. Public class email service. Public void send welcome email, user. Console. Write line, welcome email sent. This class has a single purpose, sending welcome emails. Create a logger class, then we separate logging functionality. Public class logger. Public void log, string message. console. Write line, message. This class has one clear job, logging. Finally, a clean and simple user service class. Now our main service becomes clean, readable, and focused. Public class user service. Private read-only user validator underscore validator equals new user validator. Private read-only user repository underscore repository equals new user repository. Private read-only email service underscore email service equals new email service. Private read-only logger underscore logger equals new logger. Public void register user underscore validator. Validate user underscore repository. Save user underscore email service. Send welcome email user underscore logger. Log user registered successfully. Now this class is not doing everything by itself. It is simply coordinating the work between other classes. Each responsibility has its own dedicated home. By applying SRP, our code becomes cleaner, easier to maintain, easier to test, reusable, and highly professional. This is how we convert a tightly coupled, messy design into a clean and structured architecture using the single responsibility principle. Now, after applying the single responsibility principle, our design becomes clean, structured, and perfectly organized. The system now has one class responsible only for validation, one class responsible only for data persistence, one class responsible only for sending emails, one class responsible only for logging, and one main class simply coordinating the work. Now each class has just one clear reason to change. Each class is easy to understand, easy to maintain, easy to reuse, and very easy to test. Most importantly, the system becomes scalable. If we want to change validation, we only modify the validation class. If we change the database, only the repository class changes. If email service changes, only the email class is affected. So instead of one big risky class, we now have small, focused, and powerful components. Exactly how professional software should be designed. Now let's talk about the biggest question. What are the advantages of following the single responsibility principle? Why do so many companies, architects, and experienced developers strongly recommend SRP? Let's break it down. Better readability. When each class has only one responsibility, the code becomes crystal clear. Every class clearly explains what it does, and even new developers can quickly understand the system without confusion. Easier maintenance. Software constantly changes. Features get added, rules get updated, and improvements are required. With SRP, updating code becomes very safe and easy because you only modify the class responsible for that particular functionality. No unnecessary risk to the rest of the system. Improved reusability. Single responsibility classes are highly reusable. Since they are focused and independent, the same modules can be used in other parts of the project, or even in other projects, without major changes. Better testability. Testing becomes simple and powerful with SRP. Each class does only one predictable job, so unit tests are easier to write, easier to understand, and much more reliable. Reduces bugs. Less code inside each class means fewer bugs. And even if a bug appears, it becomes very easy to locate and fix because responsibilities are clearly separated. Supports clean architecture. SRP is not just a small coding guideline. It is a foundation of professional software design. It strongly supports solid principles, microservices architecture, clean architecture, onion architecture, and domain-driven design. When SRP is followed, every other architecture practice becomes easier and more effective. So overall, the single responsibility principle makes your software cleaner, safer, easier to maintain, more professional, and future-ready. More classes. When we split responsibilities, the number of classes in the project naturally increases. For beginners, this sometimes feels overwhelming or too much, but in reality, this is actually a positive thing for professional development because more classes mean more clarity, better structure, and cleaner architecture. Slightly more design effort. Applying SRP requires thinking before coding. You need to plan your design, understand responsibilities, and structure things properly. Beginners often feel this is time-consuming, but in long-term projects, SRP actually saves massive time by reducing bugs, avoiding confusion, and simplifying maintenance. Risk of over-engineering. Sometimes developers go to the extreme. They split even very small logic into too many classes, which only increases complexity instead of solving problems. So SRP must be applied smartly and logically, not blindly. Perfectly aligned with your previous toned down finger, SRP in microservices. In microservices architecture, SRP is extremely powerful. Each microservice should handle one bounded business responsibility. For example, a payment service handles only payments, an order service manages only orders, an inventory service manages product stock. Each service focuses on one domain, which makes systems scalable, independent, and robust. SRP in APIS. Even in APIS, SRP plays a key role. We should always separate. Controller logic handles requests and responses, business logic handles real operations, data access logic interacts with the database. This separation keeps APIS organized, readable, and easy to maintain. SRP in UI. SRP is also important in UI development. We should separate UI components only for display, state management, handles data flow, business logic handles decisions and rules. When UI responsibilities are separated, applications become more stable and easier to manage. Now, how do we identify if SRP is violated? Just ask yourself these simple questions. Does this class do more than one job? Does this class frequently require changes? Does changing one functionality risk breaking others? Is this class hard to understand? Does this class cross multiple business domains? If the answer is yes, then SRP is clearly violated. SRP in interview perspective. If you are attending an interview, here's how you can confidently answer SRP questions. What is SRP? A class should have only one responsibility, meaning only one reason to change. Why is SRP important? Because it improves maintainability, readability, scalability, and testability. Give a real example: user registration system where validation, email sending, logging, and database storage are separated into different classes. What happens if SRP is not followed? Code becomes messy, tightly coupled, error-prone, and extremely difficult to maintain. Final practical takeaways. So practically remember, do not mix unrelated logic in one class. Each class should represent one clear purpose. Always think about future changes. Apply SRP logically, not blindly. SRP as your friend, not a rule to fear. Conclusion: the single responsibility principle is one of the most powerful concepts any developer can learn. It transforms messy, fragile, spaghetti code into structured, professional, enterprise-grade software. When we design applications where every class, every module, and every service has one focused responsibility, the system becomes clearer, stronger, scalable, and future-proof. Yes, SRP may feel like extra effort in the beginning, but in real-world software development, where applications live for years and continuously evolve, the single responsibility principle saves massive time, prevents countless bugs, and makes development far easier. So always remember, one class, one responsibility, one reason to change. That is the true essence of the single responsibility principle. If you found this explanation helpful, don't forget to like the video, share it with your developer friends, and subscribe to the Videoscatra YouTube channel for more high-quality learning content. Also, hit the bell icon so you never miss an update.